Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are delighted that we've got Relationship Audit and Management making a presentation today. It's one that I saw earlier on in the week and was brilliant, and really felt that we needed to share it with the rest of our community. I'm going to let Kerry and Simon take over and take you through that. Their presentation is divided up into a number of parts, and they're going to be taking questions, discussion in between each part, and I'll try and moderate that. But I'll leave it to Kerry to pick up with us. So over to you, Kerry.
Thanks, Clive. Simon, you can get the charter. Fantastic. There you go. Great. Well, there we are. We call this presentation The Shifting Sands of Agency-Client Relationships. Obviously, there's a lot going on, including these sands moving around the screen as we're looking at them. So what we're going to do today, Simon, next chart, please. We'll just give you, for those who don't know anything about relationship audits, we'll give you just a couple of bits and pieces about us and where we come from and what we do. Then we're going to talk about the impact of where we find ourselves now, which is variously called the remote working environment or working from home, the impact of that on everybody. Then we're going to focus on client companies, then we're going to focus on agencies, and finally we'll pull together some learnings. So next, Simon, please. So relationship audits, who or what is relationship audits? Well, Simon and I set the business up 20 years ago now, and we've now got a global footprint, as it's called. So we've got relationship audits people in the US, in Australia, in South Africa, in Germany, and in France. And all of our backgrounds, all the partners across the world, including Simon and I, have got backgrounds in marketing services, working in advertising and design specifically. And that means that we started what we do in marketing services for both clients and agencies. We also work with other service categories, if you like, from professional services, financial services, business services, and in fact, any service environment in which there's a buyer and a seller of a high value service product. And the important thing is that next, Simon.
Has that come up, Aaron? Right. Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, yeah, what I wanted to say is that because we've been doing this for as long as we have, both the clients that we work with, the client companies we work with, and the agencies we work with, say that they trust the advice that we offer based on the data that we collect. So just some examples of the kind of people that we work with. Next slide. I've already
flashed it before.
Yeah, you're running ahead of yourself. So these are some of the people that we work with. You can see, you'll recognize some names there. We work across the marketing services sector, advertising, PR, design, and so on and so forth. And as well as these agency clients, we have enterprise clients, Simon, please, and professional services companies. So again, famous names from across the world. And we work with these organizations both internationally and at a local level in different markets in which we operate. So we've got these kind of clients from agencies, from enterprise companies, from professional services. The question is, what is it that we do to them, or for them, I should say. Next slide. What do we deliver? Well, in a nutshell, we deliver intelligence, but not just any old intelligence. Intelligence that is accurate because we ask the right questions. Intelligence that is actionable, and that's important. We don't just give you data, we give you information and intelligence that you can do something with, and that becomes an enabling an enabling opportunity for you as an agency. Why is it enabling? Well, if we go on to the next slide.
Carey?
Next slide, please, Simon. Okay, so what? Can we go back slide, please?
Do you want to go back further, Carey?
I want to go the previous slide to this one, please. Right, just stop there for a minute. So what the intelligence we gather does, particularly if you're an agency with high value clients, is no, we've gone back too far now.
There is a delay on this.
Yeah, this has been happening on Zoom all day, guys. So you're just gonna have to be patient with it.
Okay, so let's just stay in this chart for a minute. So the benefits of the intelligence we gather is to help you as an organization, as an agency, identify and solve the right problem so that you don't get into a situation where you're having to repitch for business. In addition to that, it identifies the best opportunity for you to leverage in terms of the opportunities with your client. And what that does together is it gives you greater certainty and predictability of income going forward. And these days, having predictability of income and certainty of income is more important than it's ever been. So what this presentation is going to focus on is, next slide please, is the intelligence we've gathered from talking to our partners around the world. And Simon's going to walk you through that, and I'll come back a bit at the end. Simon, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Carey. What I'm going to do is as Carey said, run through this in 4 sections. We're going to look at some of the highlights of what everybody's facing. We're going to look at what clients are telling us. We're going to look at what agencies are telling us and pull together some learnings and thoughts from that. As I say, when we get to the end of every section, I think, Clive, you may lead a discussion on what a number of these points have actually brought up. There is tension and there is nervousness. If I had a penny for each time somebody has used the expression the new normal, I think I'd be rather rich at the moment. There is, also the phrase is, what's going to be the new reality? Nobody really knows, but what we do know is that when we come out of this, life's not going to be the same again. We're seeing insecurity in all businesses, not just agencies. Clients are insecure. As one said to us recently, everybody's scared. And particularly amongst the larger agency groups, there is undoubtedly a concern that there's going to be a second round of layoffs. What we're seeing, and indeed things like this, free webinars, etc., there's empathy and collaboration going on. People are working together in ways that they haven't worked together before, and it's not just the big drug companies. What we're seeing is a lot of collaboration between agencies. As our South African partner said, we've moved from selfie to kinder, and there is a sense that, who knows, we all may become kinder. One of the challenges that a lot of people are reporting to us is the challenges faced by those that have children at home. I think there is a general feeling that the impact of having to self-school and manage kids and get the day job done is a huge challenge. And what we're seeing is in a number of agencies, and indeed a number of clients, the adjustment of working hours to those people, particularly clients that have kids at home. The onus is really on the agency to structure and service them at the hours that they're going to be working. There is also a challenge on how to maintain relationships with personal interaction. Particularly the advertising and marketing industry has always been very good at building relationships through face-to-face meetings. And of course, this is now a major, major challenge. This and a number of other points that I'm going to go on to in a minute was already becoming a greater issue prior to the COVID-19 crisis. Environmental concerns and carbon footprints were starting to impact clients in terms of the way that they wanted to work with their agency. So, for example, we were doing some work on behalf of one of our law firms with the government department DEFRA. And the guy I was interviewing said that he had to get 2 people to sign off his travel from Bristol to London. And even when he got to London, he wasn't allowed to hire a taxi, but DEFRA paid 5p a mile for him to hire a push bike. His view, even then, and this was about 3 or 4 months ago, was that this is the way the world is going to go. Well, clearly, it's gone that way. Nobody could predict what we're in now. But coming out of this, there are going to be a lot more relationships that have to be built through not meeting face to face. That is a major challenge. That is something that we as an organization are absolutely fascinated in, because how do you build those relationships and how do you maintain them? I think the key learning here is that we all need to work harder to maintain those relationships. You can't assume that they're okay unless you've spoken to the key clients. One of the things that we are also seeing and hearing is that particularly agency management are having to spend a lot of time managing their own staff, lots of Microsoft Teams meetings, lots of emails coming in, and finding it a challenge to find the time to actually stay in touch with those clients. As one CEO said to all of his staff, always make sure you are useful and always make sure you are relevant when dealing with your clients. To the point earlier, in terms of we were already seeing this over the last couple of years, but now it's been supercharged in terms of the acceleration of new technology. We're seeing rapid upskilling, and it's almost like, for example, the need to speak different languages, the need to speak Zoom, the need to speak Skype, the need to speak Hangouts, the need to speak Teams, the need to speak Blue Jeans, and so on and so on. A number of clients have said that the agencies that they work with haven't been as good as they could be at adapting to the technology that the client wants to actually work with. We're also seeing, and I know Mag are very good at this, in terms of lots of free seminars and lots of free training. You may be interested in an organization called the Professional Services Marketing Group. Sorry, excuse me. They are a professional services group for the law industry. They have a lot of free useful seminars that they've run that are also put up on YouTube. They did a particularly good one recently on Microsoft Teams. So if you wanted to get your staff skills enhanced on Microsoft Teams, either go on that or we'd be happy to send you the link. Agency management are now starting to wrestle with the factor of how do you bring people back to work. Many agencies, not all, but many agencies have adopted a working environment where people work very closely together. That is clearly not going to be acceptable or practical when staff come back to work. And many are really racking their brains in terms of how do they make their office premises work when you have to have social distancing. To also add to that, we see and we sense that remote working, a lot of people really like and gives them a better work-life balance. But also they're going to be reluctant to get on crowded commuter trains in the morning and the evening. Interestingly, we heard from KPMG just as this virus broke, and what KPMG did was for their major teams and departments, they split them in 3 locations all over London, including Croydon, which sounded interesting. What they did, or rather the reason why they did that, was they wanted to minimize the risk that if there was any infection in one part of the team, it wouldn't wipe out the entire team. We're also hearing that particularly the professional services firms, who I think have been better than agencies, have been ordering thermal scanners so that when staff and indeed clients visit their offices when lockdown is over, they will have the confidence that they'll be thermally scanned. And they are also looking to bulk buy face masks, so face masks will be freely available. If anybody wants a link to that, somebody's, one of our partners in the States sent me a link recently in the last couple of days of a US firm that's offering a deal on bulk buying face masks. And then finally on this point, it's very clear to us, and it's very clear to what clients say, that those that come through this whole crisis best will undoubtedly be the strongest in terms of future work with a client. The expression trusted advisor has never been more important. And indeed, there's one particular agency that we work with that has picked up significantly more business than it had, simply because the client believes, and we know quite rightly believes via the audit, that the agency knows the business and they can be trusted on to deliver. Okay, Clive, that's my thoughts, or that's our thoughts on everyone. Are there any questions? I should say, Kerry and I would be interested on all of these points to get the audience's view, and indeed if there are any other points that should be added to this section. Hello?
Clive, if you're speaking, your microphone's off.
Yeah. Should be on now, isn't it? Yeah, but has anybody any questions? And if you want, Terry, if you can unmute everyone, just so everyone can shout up and see if there are no questions in the chat room at the moment, or is everyone happy for us to move on? Anybody got anything to add?
No, happy to move on.
Okay, move on.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll catch up at the end.
Thank you.
Okay, in terms of what clients are saying to us, they're saying that their supply chain has been disrupted. That seems to be a buzzword with many of the clients we're talking to. And as a consequence, already procurement are looking at all elements of the supply chain. Effectively, they're looking to reduce risk, and the large corporates are reviewing the risk profile of each of their key suppliers. What we sense is that they are taking the lead probably from the government, in terms of they don't want to be exposed to having too many eggs in too many baskets. We're seeing chief marketing officers' roles continuing to disappear. We're seeing and hearing stories of the C-suite demanding positive proof of return on investment in terms of the work that any of their marketing agencies do for them. It's very, very clear to us that data is absolutely key. And interestingly, we're seeing the rise of the chief financial officer, and in some organizations, almost a fight going on in terms of actually who controls data. Because if you control the data, you probably control the relationship with the agency. Reputation management and social purpose are also becoming very key planks of marketing strategies. You only have to look at the TV ads to see the way that sales messages have been changed. We're also getting a lot of clients talking to us about how they're quickly working to repurpose images from people interacting to people being socially distant. We're also hearing many stories that within this crisis, it's becoming an opportunity for consumers to either discover or indeed rediscover brands that they may not have been familiar with or actually lost distance from. Certainly through reading the press, Tesco are coming out of this very, very well in terms of the way that they have adapted their marketing messages, but also the customer experience. A lot of these large enterprise organizations are providing really generous support for their employees. And in many cases, this is in direct contrast to what's happening with agencies. There is one large American pharmaceutical agency, sorry, one large pharmaceutical client that we work with, who is offering free subscription to their staff and to the kids of their staff for remote schooling. They're offering free counselling and mental health support. They're ensuring that all their people have every bit of tech they need, be it new iPads, laptops, software, and it goes on. In this particular organisation, we're being told that the staff are actually saying, guys, we've got too much. But that just gives you a flavour of two different types of organisation, agencies and clients, how they're reacting to this, because certainly that's not something that's being fed back by agency staff. Worryingly for agencies, clients are already starting to discuss with us that if agencies are working remotely and will be working more remotely in the future, therefore there's less fixed overheads, and that's not necessarily cost reduction they're talking about. They're talking to us about cost removal. And then finally, many clients are saying to us, well, we've postponed the statutory review that we had in place because clearly it's difficult to actually do this now. And frankly, we are very, very busy. But it comes back to the point that I said earlier, the agencies that come out of this will be the strongest, and effectively how agencies adapt to the new working environment that we're working in will greatly affect the position coming out of it. So we would say to you, we would say to all of your staff, consider the fact that we're probably in a 3, 4, 5, 6 month repitch and act accordingly. Okay, so that's the client perspective. Does anybody have any points or questions? Does
yes.
anybody have anything to add to this?
Yeah, Simon, Gellin speaking. I'll put my video on for a second. Thank you very much. Quick question around cost removal versus cost reduction. Just interested in how you're separating out the two, how you're defining cost removal as opposed to cost reduction.
Okay, I mean, the cost removal is really based on the fact that fewer people will be working in an office, and therefore the agency will need smaller offices and will have smaller overheads. Cost reduction is, if you like, on a line-by-line basis. So you've charged us £100 for this. I now wanted £80.
Right. Okay.
Paul Phelps want to ask about the relationship. Paul?
Yeah, sorry, no, it was just that second point on your chart there about the CMOs disappearing. I don't know if I missed what you said there, but are you actually seeing kind of a large-scale dismissal of CMOs? Because that's somewhat worrying, really.
Well, okay. This is something, again, that was happening and has been a trend for the last 3 or 4 years. What we are seeing, though, is the mergers of marketing and sales departments and sales directors effectively taking over a marketing director's role.
Sorry. So you're not saying this is only just happening since the downturn?
No. But okay. The indications are that this is going to get faster. You're not going to see the complete removal of CMOs in every organisation, but I think in a lot of organisations they're falling out of the C-suite, and when the CMO falls out of the C-suite, the status of the agencies that actually work for somebody like that goes down as well. What we see as a major issue and opportunity is that agencies need to engage with the C-suite and need to show the value that they can actually bring to the organisation. And there are a lot of agencies that are talking to us about how do we engage with the C-suite, what do we do, where frankly there is very little or no experience within the agency to actually do that. And our belief is that you need to talk about the client's business rather than an ad or a marketing campaign. And one of the things that we've been seeing for many years is that clients have been saying the agency doesn't understand our business well enough. Interestingly, when Kerry and I were lads at Y&R and Graham Kemp was our client, which goes back more years than I care to actually think about, the clients were very forthcoming about their business. They were very transparent. What we're finding now is that many clients assume that the agency know unless they ask, and are really interested about the client's business. And I'm not suggesting the people on this call will fall into that group, but particularly the under 30s and the generational aspect of that, it seems to be a whole generation not being particularly bothered or not being eager and hungry to actually learn about the client's business. And if you don't understand the client's business, then you're going to be doing an awful lot more work going backwards and forwards. And frankly, you're not going to be able to be proactive in developing added value, which is another one of the major issues that Kerry and I see day in, day out. If an agency is being proactive, clients want more of it. And if you're not being proactive, then they need some of it. So I've slightly gone off onto a tangent there, Paul, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's fine, thank you.
Yeah, it's a question from us, Chris here. I had a question about the CMOs disappearing and the pressure to show ROI. Just in terms of, do you see a kind of a sort of shift or an acceleration of more short-term thinking versus kind of longer-term brand building? Is that kind of a theme that's sort of appeared? It kind of struck me before this COVID-19 thing that was the sort of direction of travel a bit in larger organisations. Do you think this crisis has accelerated that at all?
Without any doubt, there will be the talk that long-term brand building is important. But there again, you have one large cereal manufacturer, you can guess who it might be, that basically bonuses all of its marketing staff on the performance in the last 3 months. And therefore there's no surprise that the money off and special promotions, because that way they actually get their bonus. Kerry and I think it's a major issue for the industry, because long-term brand building is something that too many people pay lip service to. But if that's going to happen, it needs to be done in a way that the business can has actually got the numbers to actually show that it's actually of value to the client's business in terms of the long term. Does everybody agree with that? Has anybody got any other thoughts on that?
I think that thing I want to look at is in terms of this thing about taking out overhead cost, which means that will be perceived as by the clients an opportunity for agencies charging less.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think also, just to give you another example, one of the law firms that we work with sent us to go and see a very large financial services client of theirs, and was talking to the general counsel about the new technology that this particular firm had actually brought in. And she said, this is really, really good. And she just said in passing, but of course we'll expect a price reduction, because they've basically created new pieces of software to enable the client to actually work, or the firm to work with the client more efficiently. Of course, what the general counsel there failed to actually realise is the massive investment that goes in terms of creating that software in the first place. And also, secondly, we know through our own online systems, once you've got the software, the need to keep it updated and relevant and state of the art isn't an insignificant cost either.
Stuart, you want to talk about the rediscovery of brands?
Yeah, it's just hi there. Just whichever point it was, your fourth point on this chart, and it's something I've heard as well from a couple of sources actually, both from a retailer perspective and also from a brand, FMCG brand perspective, is this rediscovery of brands. I just wonder, just digging beneath that a little, whether you had a view on what's driving that. I've got my own suspicions relating to familiarity and comfort and those sort of factors in a scary world. Is it anything broader and deeper than that? Is there anybody that's doing particularly well, or doing anything that is particularly putting those brands front and center, given the current context?
I think it's a personal view. I think it also comes down to trust. I'll give you one specific example. I live in sunny Surbiton, and I've always shopped at Sainsbury's because it was convenient and it was easy and it was on the way home. I went into Sainsbury's earlier this week, and I didn't want a big shop, and I just wanted a basket. Yeah. And I said to the guy on the door, "Have the baskets been wiped?" To which his answer was, "Well, the trolleys have been wiped." Right. Okay. So luckily I had a tissue in my hand, and I put the tissue on, and I went round, got what I wanted to do, and I asked to see the manager. And I said, have the baskets been wiped? To which the answer was, well, we wipe them 4 times a day. So you don't wipe them after every customer? No. So from that moment onwards, I went back to Waitrose. I was prepared to pay a premium. The experience of shopping at Waitrose is significantly better, and any company that comes down the line and says, does anybody need a toilet, has got to be okay in my book. But it's an experience that I'm talking about.
No, and just to build on that, Simon, just to build on that, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned Tesco there, and I've had a few people mention to me, we have where I live in Marlow, and we have a Sainsbury's in Marlow. And interestingly, people who normally shop at Sainsbury's in Marlow are not going there. They're actually driving to Tesco because everybody says it's a much better experience, much better organised. And the Tesco they're going to is a superstore. It's about 6 or 7 miles away from Marlow. But people are going because they've got the whole store policed in an appropriate fashion, as do Boots, by the way, if you've ever been to a Boots recently. And these little things, I think, are things that will stick with people going forward. That certain organizations didn't get it right. And so, and you damage your brand credibility if those little things get in the way. I think that's just 2 simple examples with regard to the retail environment, but this is going on elsewhere.
I think we've discussed in the past that there are going to be winners and losers out of this, and some of the winners are going to be the ones because of the way in which they behaved during this, and some of the losers are going to be equally done by the way they behaved.
No, I think you're right. And, we were talking, one of our US partner was telling us that, he'd been speaking to one of the big network agencies in New York, and they had a couple of clients that they had, a cruise client and an airline client, and their business was going to hell in a handcart. Whereas they had 2 other pieces of business that were in personal products, not least one of which was toilet paper. Now, guess what? Their business is going through the roof. But interestingly, they versus P&G, and again, P&G have announced that they are spending more money, on promoting their brands in this environment because personal product care is so important. But different client companies now are reacting to this in different ways. So the likes of Kimberly-Clark may be, shutting up shop in terms of promoting, for example, whereas P&G are spending a lot more. Both are winning. And I think that's the point here. I think this part that we'll come on to talk about a piece of learning here is that there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers as we go through this. And Simon's earlier point about you're being reviewed now as an agency, as agencies are, that is absolutely the case. And those people who do well at this in this phase will probably do well in the post-lockdown phase. That would seem to us to make a lot of sense.
And can I build on that, Gary? And almost as a segue to the next chart, we're talking about retailer experience, but we would say you need to define your client's experience of actually working with the agency. And our view is that it's the little things that can make a difference. There are some tangible things such as offices or whatever, but the attitude of the staff, the attitude of the employees, how you deal with clients, how you make their lives easier and seamless, how they feel not just valued but special, has never been more important. But in our experience, very few agencies set out to define the experience of what it's like to be a client, because from what we see, that happens a lot by accident, but is often one of the key points of differentiation between one agency and another.
Okay, it's a good segue into the next phase. I'm conscious of the time. We've got 20 minutes, so
Okay, so as far as agencies, law firms are concerned, both are reporting significant loss of income. We have one large media agency that reported in the last 4 weeks, year on year, they had 60% less income. Moore Kingston Smith a couple of weeks ago reported that the average salary reduction from those staff that hadn't been made redundant or furloughed was 20%, with often senior management taking much more of a hit. Cash flow, this is probably stating the bleeding obvious, but cash flow is absolutely king, and trying to get money out of clients if you're an agency has never become more difficult. We have lots of examples of clients changing their payment terms unilaterally. There is one interesting one that, again, our US client, our US partner told us about, which is one of the large telecoms companies that we work with has recommended to their agencies that they factor the invoices. And this particular telecoms company have set up a deal with Citibank for invoices over, I think it's 500,000 US, and with Amex for invoices below that. Both companies, both the factoring houses charge, I think, 2.5% or 2% of the overall sum. But interestingly, agencies and suppliers are getting paid quicker. Be interesting to hear from you, just when I finish this, whether or not other clients over here are doing it, but we hadn't heard of that. Agencies are already starting to review their real estate portfolio. A lot of the big holding companies particularly have large spaces and long leases. And funny enough, I was speaking to the chairman of a 800 independent agency group earlier today, and he's already talking about looking to sublet a third of their offices. So with all that in mind, one of the things that people are talking to us about is this precipitating the decline of the big holding companies? Sorry, just to go back to that point, one of the other things we're starting to see clients talk about is they don't want one big office in one country. They're talking to us about micro networks where, for example, in the States, you'd have small collections of people in each state, and that would be more flexible and it would play to the ability to react locally. There is a risk of breakaways, or maybe not breakaways, or startups. Startups because a lot of people are being made redundant. Breakaways because, as one chief executive said to us, he said, people are calling everybody's mobile. Nobody's coming in and having the experience of working with us via the switchboard. And he is really worried within his own organization that because he doesn't know and hasn't got his finger on the pulse of how remote working is working, he is very nervous that some of his large clients, who he hasn't got the time to actually get around, may actually break away. A different guy was talking to us about how FaceTime equals better relationships, and he's mandated that all significant, important conversations with a client, wherever possible, take place on webcam. He was also saying, and I have to say I have a degree of sympathy with him in this, that there will be a honeymoon period in terms of people turning up for video meetings, looking unkempt in their pajamas, in their Bugs Bunny outfits and stuff like that. But he said that what will happen is that there will become a time when this really will become the new norm. And the way you look on webcam, the way you project yourself will be a competitive point of difference.
Simon, just to that point, there's one other element to this too, though, that, and interestingly, three completely separate people have said to me today, with conversations about other things, that everybody's getting into kind of webcams and, you know, FaceTime and all that kind of stuff. But as three people have used the phrase today, I'm pretty much zoomed out already. And I think it's an interesting point, because what it says is that if you think about, you know, quote, normal life, unquote, you know, we'd have seen our clients, we see them face to face, or we speak to them sometimes on Zoom, or sometimes we use an ordinary phone to do it. And I suspect that people will not, it won't be long before people are actually also saying, look, let's just have a call. We don't need to have a Zoom about this. Let's just have a call like we used to do in the past. So I think people just need to be judicious about how they use, you know, this whole kind of web-based seeing people the other end in terms of the act.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just conscious of time, Clive, so I'll move on quickly. This is about keeping staff engaged. It's really interesting that lots of organisations are having daily yoga sessions, Friday drinks sessions, virtual workouts. Some organisations and agencies, the chief executive has instituted 9 o'clock calls in the mornings, so that everybody's on the same page as far as he's concerned. To say the reaction from his staff is that he's checking up on them. It's an interesting balance. Just one observation. From a personal perspective, lots of people seem to be keeping in touch with people by having quizzes. It struck us to that earlier point that not enough people know about the client's business, or indeed about the agency and the work that it's done. We've suggested to a number of our clients that they may hold as a social gathering a agency quiz, which also includes questions on the client's business and the agency. Many are really worried about what happens when staff return to work and what is the new normal. As I said earlier, face masks, thermoscanners, I think are going to be the norm. And one other point on this is that a number we've heard are asking their agencies, you may have furloughed X, Y, and Z, but when things return to normal, can you guarantee us the same team? Interesting conversations. So let me just move on to the learning here. Our view is that it's not all doom and gloom. As we said earlier, the food retailers, the tech companies seem to be doing well. P&G investing more in marketing. It's also interesting from our client, from our partner in Asia. He told us that the Chinese retailers, the Chinese agencies, were using the lockdown time that they had in terms of prep, in terms of refurbing offices, refurbing shops, etc. Important point here is the need to be seen to adapt and to change and to be relevant to clients. Over the many years that we've been talking between agencies and clients, we've often seen agencies doing things that haven't necessarily been merchandised to the client. How agencies are adapting to the client's needs, we think always needs to be stressed and made sure they actually get it. And so really agility and to be seen to be agile is part of the new normal. Reorganizations are going to be a given. It's interestingly, the best agencies that get the best client scores tend to be the fastest and the most agile. And we believe we're probably going to be now, for the foreseeable future, in a series of where reorganizations are continually happening, and therefore the need to employ staff of a mindset that actually are flexible is really important. The other thing to actually say here is that we have dozens, and I do mean dozens, of examples where we do what we call lost pitch audits, finding out the reasons why you've actually lost a piece of business, and also a pitch. What it's taught us is that when a client reorganizes, if an agency doesn't speak to the client and find out how it can mirror the new client's organization, rather than assuming everything will be the same, more often than not, you find yourself in trouble. What we see is more reduction of fixed overheads by agencies. We hear that, as I said earlier, there are going to be more cuts at the top, and one of the groups of people that are going to benefit from this is the freelance community. So we see more use of freelancers. And what we're also seeing is agencies really struggling, though, to actually measure and to understand, well, how well are we doing at actually working remotely with our clients? And indeed, what do our staff think about us and having the ability to work remotely as a team? So to put all of this together, as one agency CEO said to his staff, be quick, be relevant, or we'll be gone. Be quick, be relevant, or we'll be gone. Carey.
You move on slides, Simon, please. Okay, so as Simon was just saying, one of the things, can you go back, please?
Different times raise
different questions. Okay, so the point that Simon's making is that a number of our clients have said to us, look, we work with you guys, you do regular assessments for us with our clients, but it really feels right now that when we want to do some kind of assessment of how we're doing, really the questions that we've typically used in the past don't seem to us to be appropriate to where we are right now. Because the important thing about this whole remote working environment is we don't know what we don't know. So they've said to us, can you help us with this? Can you help us understand better how our clients think we are doing with them in this new environment? Next slide. And what we've done is to develop a tool which we call Relationship Pulse. It's an simple online assessment tool that allows you to understand better how well you are perceived to be doing by the client across the KPIs that are relevant to where we are today, as opposed to where we were rather 2 or 3 months ago. Next slide.
Carey, I'm gonna put all of these three up.
Yeah. Carey,
Yeah.
you're going very slowly, I think, somehow.
This is, yeah.
Can everybody else see these three?
No, we can, okay, just, I think, are they all building together?
Yeah, I'll put them all up to save
Okay.
the
I've only got one up here, as they say. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point really we're trying to make is that this is a tool. It is designed to be taken. It's a 2 or 3 minute assessment tool. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on your Mac, your PC, your tablet, whatever it is you want to use. And as soon as the survey goes live, then you get access to a dashboard which you can access and understand how well you are perceived to be doing, and you can drill down to an individual level. So this idea really is to help you understand how well your client thinks you're adapting to the remote working environment. And as Simon said earlier on, that's really important given the fact that we're all under constant review. So crucially, it's about understanding not where you are, but where you need to be. Next slide. And for those of you who follow ice hockey, I don't, but I have heard of Wayne Gretzky, who said that a good hockey player plays where the puck is. A great hockey player plays where the puck is going to. So I just want to leave you with the thought that think yourselves, where is your puck right now? And do you know how to get to it?
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you very much indeed, Kerry and Simon. We haven't got a lot of time left. One question is, how do you access the Pulse platform?
Well, what you do is if you get in touch with us, we will, whoever's interested, we can give you some more details about it and show you how it works, demonstrate it to you, etc., etc.
We'll put that up on the website for anybody that's interested in terms of doing that. And what's this? Galen, you still here? No, he's gone. I mean, Galen highlights interestingly the point which is he's gone.
Clive, can I just say, because I'm mindful of everybody's time, if anybody has any questions, just email us and we'll be happy to answer it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll look in terms of that. But I think what it shows is for the independent community, I think they are renowned for their agility, and with the change in the. Is that me?
We've got a Dalek as a member, have we?
I don't know whether that's coming from me or from where, but anyway, I've noticed that the time's there, but this has been excellent. It gives us a kind of very good flag in the sand in terms of where we are currently and the movement, and I think our members and the independent community will be agile and take advantage of all the things that are happening. So thank you very much indeed. All I could do is point to the leaders who are on this call now to another one we've got on next Tuesday at 2 o'clock with Waypoint partners who are M&A specialists, who will probably be discussing more about the M and the A and the consolidation in the industry and really what the M&A market has for agencies going forward. So that's at 2 o'clock next Tuesday. So that's another interesting perspective of how the landscape for the industry has changed. So that leaves me nothing more to say, but thank you, Simon. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, everybody else for joining. Have a good weekend.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It is a weekend. Another day, not the same. So those of you who are zoomed out can have a break. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.